Welcome to Known Unknowns.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
I'm Carly Davis.
And I'm Harry Sullivan.
Did we ever say our last names?
We do sometimes.
Oh.
I think we have said them.
My name is Carly Renee Davis.
My name
Don't forget it.
is Harry Donal Schweigert Sullivan. Forget about it.
Forget about it. So if you hear
stupid.
Moana in the background, it's because our roommate and her sister are hanging out in the living room, and they're watching Moana.
Yeah.
And the walls are thin here, and we don't want to ruin their joy and tell them to turn it down.
Yeah, so if you hear some background music, that it's
You're
just
welcome.
Yep.
You're welcome.
It's just a little bonus for this episode.
Yeah.
So anything new in the world of conspiracies
anything
and
we need to talk about?
I mean,
No.
it was a coup in Bolivia. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But that's. I guess this isn't a politics podcast yet.
Darn.
I haven't made it one yet.
Exactly. Okay. Well, since we don't have anything to talk about because we're boring.
Yes.
We'll get started then.
Okay, great.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think we decided that I'm going first
right.
because you went first last time.
Right.
With your numbers stations, and then I did UFOs.
And then you did UFOs.
With UFO radio. Not our most unique title, but, you know, it's fine.
Hey, they can't all be winners.
They can't all be winners. This one won't be. Oh.
What?
So, titles for this episode.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Should we talk about it at the end when
we can
both
talk
done
about
our
it whenever,
topics, or now? So I had some really good ideas for the title of this episode, but Harry didn't agree. So I just wanted you to hear all of my really good
I
ideas.
didn't disagree necessarily.
Well, Harry usually makes the titles, except I made the birds and the beasts.
Well, you mostly did.
Okay.
You just said birds and beasts.
Okay, fine.
Added
Whatever.
Shh to make it a
Okay,
thing.
well, so today I'm talking about Abraham Lincoln and the various weird ghost and spiritual stories that go along with him, because him and especially his wife were very into like spiritualism and stuff. And so there's actually a lot of weird stories about that.
Yeah.
And then Harry.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Paul Bunyan later this episode, because I find folklore interesting.
So here's the deal. I wanted to name this episode Abraham's Bunyan.
That's not bad.
Abraham's Bunyan, or Abraham Bunyan, or Paul Lincoln, or what were the other ones?
I don't remember.
Oh, well, the main one was Abraham's Bunyan.
Yeah, you agreed with me. We both thought it was fine, but you agreed with me that we could do better.
Yeah.
And that we should keep
like two
brainstorming.
Bearded men.
Yeah.
Two tall bearded men.
Two
white men, America.
Two bearded white men, the story of America.
Yeah.
That's what I want to call it.
That's what you want to call it?
Well, no, that's one of my suggestions.
One of the suggestions. Yeah, so I guess, well, you'll know what it's called.
Yeah, by now you will know
it.
what we came up with. Hopefully it was something better than everything we've said so far.
Nothing can be better than Abraham's Bunyan. That's funny.
That is funny.
But
right.
I don't know if anyone would get it. I mean, I'm sure no one ever gets any of our titles.
I mean, there's not usually that much to get.
No. Yeah, we don't want to make it just like Abraham Lincoln and Paul Bunyan. Like, that's stupid. I feel like our titles are pretty clever, generally.
Yeah, we try to make them clever.
Yeah. Can you hear them? Can you hear them out in the living room?
They're having fun. They're listening to our podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. No, they're watching Moana.
Oh.
So, probably more interesting for more people. Our roommates haven't listened to the podcast either.
One of them's listened to the first episode.
Yeah, Maddie's listened to the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie said she's listened to the first episode, but when I asked her if she's listened to it, it kind of caught her off guard. So I thought maybe she might have. I don't like to ask people if they've listened to it because then they feel obligated to say, "Oh, yeah, like the first episode." And so I think I might have just caught her off guard. I don't know. She might have listened to the first episode by now.
Maybe.
I'd hope our roommates would listen to the first episode.
Nah, they get enough of us the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay.
Okay. So
right,
you're getting started?
So let's start now with Abraham's Bunyan.
Okay.
By Carly Davis and Harry Sullivan. So, like I said, I'm talking about Abraham Lincoln. Actually, so I talked about Abraham Lincoln. The reason I'm doing this is because I talked about Abraham Lincoln in my solo performance class recently. And, so if anyone from my solo performance class is listening to this podcast, they know two of these stories already, kind of. They know a little bit about them.
Okay.
Because I wrote about how Abraham Lincoln is a big part of my life because we live in Illinois and everyone loves Abraham Lincoln here. So we have New Salem and we have Springfield.
Right, and we have every other town in Illinois.
Yeah. Every other small town that he wagoned through that everyone is really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and I'm not saying Abraham Lincoln is okay. I mean, I don't know. He was cool. He's not like my favorite person in the world. I don't know much about him.
So you think slavery was a good thing and you're mad that he ended it?
No.
Hartley
But the thing is, we always learned about how he didn't really care whether slavery ended or not. He just kind of wanted to go with whatever more people wanted so he'd be more popular.
Oh.
Don't you remember learning about this? Everyone was like, well, he didn't actually disagree with slavery. He just, like, didn't really care, and he just wanted to go with what more people were thinking. I don't know. I think he's a good guy.
Okay, yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Think so?
I don't know. He's into spiritual stuff. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Honest Abe.
Yeah. How can you not like a guy with the nickname Honest Abe?
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna get my drink. Hang on. If you hear like that, I don't know if you can hear that. It's ice cubes jingling in my drink.
Ooh. What you drinking there?
Rum and Coke.
Yum yum.
Rum and Coke, yum yum. So, Abraham Lincoln. That's what I was gonna talk about. I don't know if you guys know, but he's very spiritual. Well, we all know that Mary Todd Lincoln was very spiritual, right?
We've heard that.
Do you know that? You know that.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that.
We always act like we're talking to an audience and not just each other.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we are, but really we're just talking to each other in our bedroom.
Right. We don't know if anyone's listening to this or not.
Probably not. Let's be real.
I mean, we do know that there may be some people listening to it.
Maybe like 10.
Mm-hmm. If we're lucky.
Yeah, my solo performance class acts like the whole class acts like they've listened to this, but I know the numbers of the podcast, and I know people who have actually listened to it and can give me facts about what we discussed, and there's too many people in my solo performance class who, if we added all of that, unless they're listening together.
Yeah, maybe one person downloaded it, and they just all got together without you to have like a listening party.
Yeah,
they do that every week. They all get together and listen together.
They are really nice people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt if they did that, but they don't. We're all busy college students. I highly doubt. I'm sure a couple of them have listened. I hope.
Maybe.
I hope so. Yeah. So yeah, Abraham Lincoln. Do
Okay.
you want to know about Abraham Lincoln,
Yeah,
or do you
let's
want to
get
just
into
keep talking about just kind of skirting around the subject? Is that how you would say that? Skirting around the subject?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so the first story I'm going to talk about is about Abraham Lincoln and how he saw his doppelganger. So, I wanted to get in a little bit about what doppelganger actually means, because I know what you're thinking. Doppelganger. Oh, a person that looks like a lot like you, who could be your twin, but isn't related to you. Wrong. It's not just, you see someone who looks very similar to you, and you're like, haha, that's your doppelganger, Abe. And Abe was like, oh man, that guy looks a lot like me. No.
Sorry. Sorry. Well, you sure put me in my place.
Is that what you thought doppelganger meant?
Well,
I also thought doppelganger meant that until pretty recently, when I was reading up on it.
Okay.
I listened to an episode of something with it. I think Lore.
Okay.
So the idea of doppelgangers actually really fascinate me. So I actually might get into that more on a different episode, because I really like. There's a lot of really cool stories, and it's just. They're really cool. So, when translated from German, because it's a German word, doppelganger. Yep. Actually, I forgot that, and then someone in my class, his name is Will, he was like, it's a German word, right? And I was like, yeah, definitely is. German, doppelganger. Yeah. You didn't know that? All of you, it's German. It's German. I was like, yeah, totally. And then when he said it, I was like, yeah, I think so. But I did make it sound a little bit more like I knew that it was definitely German. So sorry, Will. I mean, I knew, but also I didn't. So, when translated from German, the word doppelganger literally means doubler walker, or double goer. Actually, I think I just accidentally hit the R button. I think it means double walker or double goer. Doubler isn't a word. I think I hit the R key on my computer. Oh. So it means double walker or double goer, describing not a look-alike, but the ghostly counterpart of a living person. Oh. Yeah, so it's like your spirit twin.
Yeah. Do you think does the word gangway have like it's does that come from German? Like gangway, or
I don't know what that means.
Like you'd hear it in like old stuff, like people yell gangway. Something's coming through, like...
Is gang spelled with, like, the A and the 2 dots above it?
Well, no, because it's in English.
It.
Okay.
Did you ask if that was German?
No, if it comes from, like, a German root, like the gang part. Like, go away, get out of the way.
I don't know.
Like, go.
Well, doppelganger is still spelled with the A and 2 dots above it.
Okay. Yeah. It's a more German word. I don't know. I'm probably just looking for connections where there are none.
Right. Okay. So meeting one's doppelganger is never a good thing. Oh. Yeah. So doppelganger apparitions are sinister occurrences, bringing with them bad omens and evil intentions. Wee. So in traditional folklore, they're known to impersonate the person they resemble, plant negative and confusing ideas into others' minds, and signal some kind of impending doom for their earthly counterpart. So it's like a spirit version of you, like a demonic kind of spiritual.
Oh, yeah, so the doppelganger itself is bad. It's not just a bad, like, sign.
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes it's also just like an omen. Like if you just see your they don't actually have to, like, be physically in the, like...
Right, they don't have to be... They're not necessarily doing anything.
Yeah, sometimes you can just, like, you can see them yourself and you're like, oh, fuck. Omen. So these demonic doubles are seen as harbingers. I don't know, I copy and pasted that sentence.
Harbingers?
Harbingers? Harbingers of illness, tragedy, and death.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. So it makes sense that Abraham Lincoln saw his doppelganger.
Well, he died.
While many explanations of the doppelganger phenomenon have been offered, including supernatural manifestations, electrical glitches of the brain, and mental illness. What is known for sure is that the double walkers bring bad news for those who see them, as recorded by a number of historical accounts.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So they're not good. So Lincoln and his wife had an interest in spiritualism and the supernatural. So having lost 2 children at very young ages, Lincoln's wife, the good old Mary, frequently invited mediums to the White House to hold seances, some of which were attended by Lincoln himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wonder how that didn't get out and people were like, oh, he's a spiritualist.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were around that time. But I guess that was more of like a post-Civil War thing.
But also, I remember in school they always taught us that all the presidents were like Protestant Christians, and then when like was JFK Catholic, they were like, that was like the first Catholic president. It was very controversial. So I'm like, was Abraham Lincoln a Protestant Christian and spiritualist?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was more common, I guess, but like I also feel like people would be like, they hold seances, that's demon stuff.
Yeah, it probably wasn't like
people probably knew that Mary Todd.
I don't know. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how out there it was.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Though he seemed to contend that most mediums were hucksters, Lincoln did believe in the power of dreams to predict the future, which is interesting. Okay. He had an alarmingly accurate dream in which he walked through several rooms of the White House to the sound of crying before discovering a dead, shrouded body lying in state. Dream Lincoln asked a nearby soldier to whom the body belonged, and the soldier replied it was the president, murdered by an assassin. Ruh-roh. Mm-hmm.
He should have known better. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't have left the White House after that.
Seriously.
Until he wasn't the president anymore.
Yeah. So, Lincoln encountered what he believed to be another ill omen regarding his fate when he glimpsed his deathly pale doppelganger looking at him from a mirror. So, wait, I said this in class, and my teacher was just kind of like, so he saw his reflection?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I guess I should clarify. So, he saw, like, his face, and then on the other side, he saw, like, 2 faces in the mirror.
I see. He saw his face and another
like
of his
a sickly,
face.
Pale, like, sad, crying face,
Ooh.
I think. So this is, okay, so one of Lincoln's associates, Noah Brooks, recounted the story the president allegedly told to him on November 9th, 1864. Brooks's version of the tale, using Lincoln's words as best as he remembered them, described the following events. So this whole, like, paragraph that I'm going to read is what Noah Brooks said Lincoln said. So This is what Lincoln said. I can't do a Lincoln voice, so I'm not going to try. It was just after my election in 1860, when the news had been coming in thick and fast all day, and there had been a great hurrah, boys, so that I was well tired out, and went home to rest, throwing myself down on a lounge in my chamber. Opposite where I lay was a bureau with a swinging glass upon it. Is that right? Bureau?
Yeah.
With a swinging glass upon it. And here he got up and placed furniture to illustrate the position. And looking in that glass, I saw myself reflected nearly at full length, but my face, I noticed, had 2 separate and distinct images. The tip of the nose of one being about 3 inches from the tip of the other. I was a little bothered, perhaps startled, and got up and looked in the glass, but the illusion vanished. On lying down again, I saw it a second time, plainer, if possible, than before, and then I noticed that one of the faces was a little paler, say 5 shades, than the other. I got up, and the thing melted away, and I went off, and in the excitement of the hour forgot all about it. Nearly, but not quite, for the thing would once in a while come up and give me a little pang as if something uncomfortable had happened. When I went home again that night, I told my wife about it. And a few days afterward, I made the experiment again, when, with a laugh, sure enough, the thing came back again, but I never succeeded in bringing the ghost back after that. Though I once tried very industriously to show it to my wife, who was somewhat worried about it. She thought it was a sign that I was to be elected to a second term of office, and that the paleness of one of the faces was an omen that I should not see life through the last term. Which, yeah, she she reported that it made her nervous that he wasn't going to make it through his second term of his presidency. So, yes, and I remember this was the night before he was elected. It was election day.
Right.
So he was waiting on the results, and that's why he was the excitement, I forgot.
Sure. Makes
So
sense.
that's when it happened.
Okay.
And so Mary Todd was much more worried about it than him, but still he was a little nervous about it. So
makes sense.
Yeah. So he saw his reflection, and then to the right of it or to the left of it or something, he saw another face. That's what I'm getting.
Right.
And it was paler, and it looked sick.
Interesting.
I remember in one thing I read, it said he was crying. Yeah. So, critics of the story of Lincoln's deathly doppelganger argue that his double image was nothing more than a defect in an old mirror.
Yeah.
Okay. While that theory is a possibility, the fatalistic Lincoln... God, some of this stuff I just copy and paste and then don't change later, so I'm this is not my words. Lincoln and his wife, Mary, believed it was a sign of bad things to come, and fate proved them right. Sadly, we all know how Lincoln's life story ends when he was shot in the head and killed by John Wilkes Booth on April 14th, 1865, 3 months into his second presidential term. So he did not make it through his second term.
No.
Just weird that he saw it before his first term even started, and him and his wife were I'm not going to make it through my second term.
Before his first term ended. It was 1864, right?
No.
Oh, it wasn't? I thought you said, or was it 1860?
1860.
Oh, okay.
So it was before his first term. And then they were he's not going to make it through his second term.
Awful presumptuous.
Okay. Well, just weird,
hey,
I think that's weird.
She was right, though, so... Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
So that's the story of Abraham Lincoln and his doppelganger.
Okay. Do you have any more about Abe?
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a couple more.
Great.
So this one, I'm actually going to get a little bit into William H. Mumler. He was an American spirit photographer. So it has to do with mainly Mary Todd, but also Lincoln. He was already dead at this point. So William H. Mumler was an American spirit photographer who worked in New York and Boston. So spirit photography was big then.
Okay.
And it was the art, or not the art, I guess, the skill.
Okay.
Someone could take a photo. Yeah. So you would get a portrait. Someone would come in and be like, hey, my kid just died, or hey, my husband just died. And they would be like, okay, sit down in this chair and we'll take a picture of you. And they can capture the ghost of the dead loved one, next to or behind. They can capture ghosts on camera. Yeah. So, you can go get a picture with your dead loved one after they died, obviously. Dead loved one. The spirit of them, not their corpse. Yeah.
Well, that was a thing, too.
Yeah. His first spirit photograph was apparently an accident, a self-portrait which, when developed, he revealed the spirit of his deceased cousin.
Okay.
So after that, Mumler realized he was onto something, so he left his job as an engraver to pursue spirit photography full-time.
Did the spirits in the photos, look like people? like look like the person?
Yeah. You could tell who it was.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't just a bad photographer who would leave.
No.
He would get like light leaks and stuff on his exposures.
Right. So this is weird because so eventually okay. So I'll get into that in a second. So Mumler then left his job as an engraver to pursue spirit photography full-time, taking advantage of the large number of people who had lost relatives in the American Civil War. Mumler was eventually taken to court and tried for fraud and larceny. Though the judge acquitted him, the event ruined his career and Mumler died in poverty. Today, Mumler's photographs are recognized as fakes, but they circulated widely during the last quarter of the 19th century and were marketed as objects of belief and visual curiosities both within and beyond the spiritualist movement. So, here's the deal. So when he went to trial, before he went to trial, actually, people were like, there's no way this can be real.
Right.
Like, there's no... Like, what? No, this is ridiculous. So, famous, skilled photographers. Okay. There was, like, one, like, really famous photographer who was like, no way. He's a fraud. Like, you can't do that. And so people, like, multiple skilled, famous photographers came to his office, watched him take the photo, and watched him, like, develop the photo. To make sure he wasn't messing with it. Like, to make sure he just took the photo and developed the photo the right way. And that came up. And every single one of them, they didn't believe him, but when they got there, there's a story of this one guy specifically who was very famous, and he was like, I'm gonna catch him in the act. And he watched him all day. And he was like, the guy was like, he didn't do anything. He's just that talented. And he was like, I don't believe in this stuff.
Right.
But, you know, he's capturing this and he's not messing with the film in any way. Which is very weird. Everyone that, like, shadowed him for the day was just kind of like, yeah, no, as much as I don't want to believe it, he didn't mess with the film at all. It just showed up.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then he was, like, brought to trial. And I think Mary Todd went to him after his trial.
Well, yeah.
After the trial.
Okay.
And she, like, really believed him. And his work. But
she would.
So Mary Lincoln was a spiritualist. In part because of the losses she suffered throughout the 1860s. First, her son Willie died while the Lincolns still lived in the White House. Then, you know, the assassination of her husband. So Mary Todd Lincoln turned to spiritualists as a way of connecting with loved ones she had lost. So in 1872, when she was visiting Boston, Mumler's reputation continued amongst spiritualists, and she visited him. So Mary appeared at William Mumler's Boston studio in 1871 to have her photograph taken. Attired in mourning, so she had, like, this black veil on and, like, a black dress. She gave the well-known photographer a false name and kept her face hidden behind a black veil. Quote from Mumler, I requested her to be seated, went into my dark room, and coated a plate. Mumler said 4 years later in his autobiography. That's what he said 4 years later in his autobiography. And then another quote, when I came out, I found her seated with her veil still over her face. I asked if she intended to have her picture taken with her veil. She replied, when you are ready, I will remove it. So Mary was like, I'm not coming in here and, like, you knowing who I am so you can mess with my... She, like, believed it, but also she was like, just in case.
Right.
I'm gonna come in here so you don't know who I am. So you don't like, you know.
Right.
So she was used to dealing with mediums.
Right.
And knew how to prevent, like, their, you know, trickery.
Right. She knew they were hucksters.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them.
So her dead husband appeared to her at a seance while she was in Boston, and now she wanted a picture with him. Oh. Mumler would later claim that he did not recognize her until the negative had been developed. When revealed, Mary Todd Lincoln embraced the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. So, like, he was, like, developing it, and he was like, holy shit. That's Abraham Lincoln in the background.
Oh.
She is not who she said she is. Or she's like, or he was like, oh shit, this isn't right. I just developed Abraham Lincoln in the background, and that is not Mary Todd. She did not say her name was that.
Lincoln had a mistress.
But I remember he was like, oh my god. Lincoln had a mistress. No, but he like saw her face.
Right.
She took the veil off. Like, so he was like, oh my god, this is Abraham Lincoln. So she was embracing him? Or that's a weird way to put it.
But he was like right next to her?
Behind her.
Behind her?
His hands were like on her shoulders.
Okay.
You can still see it. There's like you can see the pictures that he took. Like all the pictures. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You can actually see them online.
Okay.
So I'll post, especially the Abraham Lincoln one. Sure. It's spooky. It's weird. I like want to believe it just because that's cool, but also I don't know.
Yeah.
It was probably a scam.
Probably.
People did claim he was like acquitted though because the judge thought that Mumler truly believed in what he was doing.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so he actually thought he was capturing spirits, or people thought that at least.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. So that's the story of the spirit photographer and getting a picture of the spirit of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Which is actually really cool.
That is cool.
I want to see it. Like, I want to see it in person. I don't know. I just, like, want it to be real. I don't know. So, my last few... So, I have, like, basically just a few sentences on each little encounter.
Okay.
Because apparently Abraham Lincoln haunts the White House.
Oh.
And there's been reports of, like, presidents and first ladies and people in the White House who have experienced him, who have either heard stuff in Abraham Lincoln's room, old room, or have actually seen his whole, like, spirit, like, whole ghost thing, body. So, these are actually really interesting because these were, like, reported from the people, and they're like, yeah, Abraham Lincoln totally haunts the White House. Which is very weird, actually, that there's so many. So, Eleanor Roosevelt never admitted to having seen Lincoln's ghost, but did say that she felt his presence repeatedly throughout the White House. She also said that the Roosevelt family dog, Fala, would sometimes bark for no reason, and what she felt was Lincoln's ghost. So, not that cool. President Dwight Eisenhower's press secretary, James Haggerty, and Liz Carpenter, press secretary to the First Lady Bird Johnson, both said they felt Lincoln's presence many times. Okay, that's lame. Why did I put this? Okay, so the former president's footsteps are also said to be heard in the hall outside the Lincoln bedroom. So these are some reports. Lillian
Are the footsteps very far apart? Is that how they notice him?
Well, no, they're just footsteps outside of his room, so I'm assuming they think.
Well, isn't that the same room as... Does no
I'm
one
sure
like...
he has a different room.
Okay.
I'm sure he was like a cool guy.
Nobody sleeps in Lincoln's bedroom anymore.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
It's not the same.
No.
Okay.
Or else they would just be like, oh, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom. They always reference like President Lincoln's bedroom.
Okay.
I think he has his own, like they kept that after he died.
Interesting.
Since he was like assassinated, you know?
Okay.
So Lillian Rogers Park stated in her 1961 autobiography, My 30 Years Backstairs, at the White House that she had heard them. So she heard the footsteps.
Okay.
Yeah. Margaret Truman, daughter of President Harry S. Truman, said she heard a specter rapping at the door of the Lincoln bedroom when she stayed there and believed it was Lincoln.
Okay.
So President Truman himself once awakened by raps at the door while spending a night in the Lincoln bedroom. So I don't know, why was he just sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom?
Well, that's how they chose the president back in the day. If you could like last the whole night sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom, you got to be president.
And it was really just people outside trying to freak them out, like, knock, 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 like it's Lincoln. So that happens a lot. People are always like, oh, I heard someone knocking on the door. I hear footsteps outside of Lincoln's bedroom.
Ooh.
Yeah. So several unnamed witnesses have claimed to have seen the shade of Abraham Lincoln actually lying down on the bed in the Lincoln bedroom, which was used as a meeting room at the time of his administration.
Okay. So the Lincoln bedroom was not Lincoln's bedroom. It was a meeting room that they have turned into the Lincoln bedroom?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it was yeah. And while others have seen Lincoln sit on the edge of the bed and put his boots on, the most famous eyewitness to the latter was Mary Eben, Eleanor Roosevelt's secretary, who saw Lincoln pulling on his boots, after which she ran screaming from the room. How fucking creepy. Like, I just saw Abraham Lincoln putting on his shoes in the other room.
I wouldn't know what to say about that.
You wouldn't believe me. You'd be like, what? Who's in our bedroom?
Yeah, that's what I would...
I know. So, others have actually... What?
I feel like it's a sign that he doesn't like what you're doing as president. He's like getting ready to leave.
I'm
out of here.
I'm outie.
The New Deal. More like new...
Yeah, not quick enough. Okay. Others have actually seen an apparition of the former president. The first person reported to have actually seen Lincoln's spirit was First Lady Grace Coolidge, who said she saw the ghost of Lincoln standing at a window of the yellow oval room, staring out at the Potomac. Jesus. I don't know words. So Theodore Roosevelt and Maureen Reagan and her husband have all claimed to have seen a spectral Lincoln in the White House. A number of staff members of the Franklin D. Roosevelt administration claimed to have seen Lincoln's spirit, and on one occasion, Roosevelt's personal valet ran screaming from the White House claiming he had seen Lincoln's ghost.
Huh.
Scary.
Nothing. Go on.
Scary. Okay. Perhaps the most famous incident was in 1942 when Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. Oh, not Mina, probably. Of the Netherlands. That's just a smudge on my computer. It's not the Enya or whatever.
Tilda?
What?
Tilda?
Oh, is that how you say it? Okay.
Yeah.
Tilda. Okay. I don't know.
Anyway, Queen Wilhelmina
of the Netherlands allegedly heard footsteps outside her White House bedroom and answered a knock on the door only to see Lincoln in a frock coat and top hat standing in front of her. She promptly fainted.
Yikes.
Scary. That's so weird. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill loved to retire late, take a long hot bath while drinking a scotch, and smoke a cigar and relax. There is an account that on this adjoining bedroom, he was startled to see Lincoln standing by the fireplace in the room, leaning on the mantel. Churchill, always quick on the uptake, simply took his cigar out of his mouth. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I missed a sentence. Yes. There's an account that on this occasion, he climbed out of the bath. Okay, wait. Let me just start the story over because this is weird. Okay. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill loved to retire late, take a long, hot bath while drinking a scotch, and smoke a cigar and relax. There is an account that on this occasion, he climbed out of the bath and naked, but for his cigar. So he was naked and had a cigar, walked into the adjoining bedroom. He was startled to see Lincoln standing by the fireplace in the room, leaning on the mantel. Churchill, always quick on the uptake, simply took his cigar out of his mouth, tapped the ash off the end of his cigar, and said, "Good evening, Mr. President. You seem to have me at a disadvantage." Lincoln smiled softly, as if laughing, and disappeared. Churchill smiled in embarrassment.
That didn't happen.
What? I think it did. That's my favorite story. That's my favorite story. So yeah, that was my favorite one. So President Lyndon Johnson supposedly encountered Lincoln's apparition during a moment of great distress. President Johnson reportedly spoke to Lincoln, asking him how he handled an unpopular war. Lincoln reportedly replied, "Don't go to the theater."
Well, it's nice that he can laugh about it.
He can laugh about it, and he thinks it's funny. Lincoln's ghost was reportedly seen outside of the White House as well. In Loudonville, New York, Lincoln's ghost was said to haunt a house that was owned by a woman who was present at Ford's Theater when Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. Other Lincoln hauntings include his grave in Springfield, Illinois, a portrait of Mary Todd Lincoln in the Phantom Train, and a phantom train on nights in April along the same path his funeral train followed from Washington, D.C. to Springfield. So, a portrait of Mary Todd Lincoln, which we already talked about, and a phantom train on nights in April along the same path his funeral train followed from Washington, D.C. to Springfield.
He gets around.
Yeah, I know. The last sighting of Lincoln's ghost was in the early 1980s when Tony Savoy, White House operations foreman, came into the White House and saw Lincoln sitting in a chair at the top of some stairs. While Lincoln died in the White House during his father's presidency,
Willie Lincoln,
not Weil. Willie Lincoln died in the White House during his father's presidency. Willie Lincoln's ghost was first reported to have been seen in the White House by staff members of the Grant administration in the 1870s. But reports have been made as recently as the 1960s. And President Lyndon B. Johnson's college-age daughter, Linda Bird Johnson Robb, claims to have seen the ghost and talked to him. Little Willie. So that's the third story, kind of, a million stories, but how he haunts the White House.
Okay.
So he gets around, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the rules of ghosts are. Maybe they can be in more places at once.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, probably. Have to.
Yeah, I've never met one. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So your turn.
Now.
Take your time. We're at 45 minutes, but take your time.
All right.
Don't matter. They don't care.
Okay. So Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan. This better be interesting. Is it interesting?
Well,
sorry, I'm doubting you. Just go. Paul Bunyan.
I always feel like I have to justify what I'm doing. Like
Sorry.
It has, I don't know. Anyway.
Uh-oh, he's upset. No, face the mic, sir. Don't turn around, because then you never talk into the microphone. We're adjusting. Sorry. We have one mic to talk into, a small bed to maneuver on.
Okay. So yeah, I just knew that. Well, part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast was so that I would have a reason to like research more about like American folklore and stuff. I don't need to justify this to you.
Me.
Okay.
I want to know.
Okay. And so, Paul Bunyan's, a big, American, mythological figure. And so, who everyone like knows the broad strokes about.
Yeah,
like,
kind of.
Yeah. I was thinking like, what do I don't know about as much about Paul Bunyan as I could,
Okay.
I know he was a big man. Got an ox. He's a lumberjack, a logger.
Let's dive deep into all the stories of Paul Bunyan, right?
Right.
Are there like a bunch of different stories?
Yeah, I'll get into like, I didn't have a super strong focus for this. Just some stuff I found out about Paul Bunyan when I was reading.
Yeah.
Stuff about him. Anyway.
Cool. I know Harry was very upset that he couldn't figure out a thesis for his story, and I'm like, I never have a thesis. I just type, and then spit out words later that don't make sense to me. So,
okay.
So no thesis needed.
All right.
Mine did not flow. Nothing flows in my stories. I'm just like, yeah, we're just gonna, so actually I'll talk about that in a second. And then, actually we'll go on to, so we'll talk about, so he dies. And then later, yeah,
No.
he died. Yes.
That's
is
what
exactly
I
how it
sound
goes.
like. You are like interesting to talk to and like good at like talking and telling stories and stuff. I'm not, and so I like need. Yeah, try that.
Mm-hmm.
Carly only likes sparkling white wines and white and pink wines. She doesn't like red wines or non-sparkling wines.
I like the sparkly stuff.
I know.
I like it to be
She likes
fizzy.
it.
Okay. And the pink and white are my favorites.
So I'm drinking a red wine we got for last Christmas.
Ugh, I don't like that. Not my favorite. Where's the sparklingness to it?
Well, I like it. So thank you, person who gave us the
Joe.
wine. Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for the wine. I don't know if you listen.
I hope so. I doubt it, but
yeah, probably not. He's got
Joe,
better stuff to do.
Thanks for the wine. It's cute. It had a little red bow on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's for our housewarming last year.
No, it wasn't.
Yes,
it was for our ugly Christmas sweater party.
Oh shit! Yeah, that one. Okay, just keep going.
Okay. Anyway, so some stuff I know about Paul Bunyan
Sweet.
now. Okay.
I want to learn about Paul Bunyan.
All right. So Paul Bunyan.
Are you gonna give us the general story? Because I forgot what Paul Bunyan is.
Yeah, I will.
You know, he's a big bearded man with an axe.
I mean, that's about all you need to know about Paul Bunyan in
Got it.
order to, if you want to like tell a story about Paul Bunyan, like all you got to know is he's a big bearded man,
with an ox.
with an ox, and he's a logger. But I'll get into that more later.
Okay.
So Paul Bunyan first started showing up in print during the first couple decades of the 1900s, usually in like humorous short stories or poems published in logging magazines.
So he's not older than the 1900s?
Well, no, he was like around for several decades before then. But he like really became popular in 1914 when an advertising writer and artist named W.B. Loghead or Laughhead or something started using Paul Bunyan and Paul Bunyan stories in his advertising material for the Red River Lumber Company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Paul Bunyan had been like, he'd originated like several decades before then probably, and was like developing as a character and as a figure of folklore, you know, for decades before anyone started like writing down stories.
Mm-hmm.
So he most likely originated in French Canada, like Quebec, Eastern Canada, or like Eastern Ontario, and gradually spread into the northern United States and made his way west as the logging industry made its way west. So he like everywhere where there are trees and a logging industry, there's like stories about Paul Bunyan, basically.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But like he started like in the east, like in like Quebec and like Maine, and then made his way down to like Wisconsin and Michigan, and then like Minnesota, and then made his way west to the like Oregon and Washington eventually.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So there are a couple of theories on where his name comes from. One is that it sort of morphed. The name and some of his stories kind of came out of this guy named Bunyan, who was apparently a real person. You don't care.
I know. I just don't know.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how that sounds like Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay.
Bunyan. Yeah. I mean, the last name kind of.
Right. No, I know.
Yeah. So this guy was apparently a real person.
Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you'd have to look harder than I did to find much information about him.
Yeah.
On the first couple pages of Google results about Bunyan, or there's only stuff about how he is a possible like origin of Paul Bunyan. But anyway, he was like a hero of the Papineau Rebellion of 1837, also called the Lower Canada Rebellion, which was basically a failed attempt at a revolution in Canada by French-speaking Canadians and working-class English speakers in Lower Canada. So he was so after that, like, he kind of became a folk hero because, like, people liked him. He did good stuff during this attempt at overthrowing the government or whatever.
Paul Bunyan?
No, Bonjean.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was
about Bonjean.
Bonjean still, yeah.
Not Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan wasn't a real guy at all, ever. Like,
I know, but maybe he was.
Yeah, well, one of the theories is that some people think that he kind of like evolved out of stories about this Bonjean guy who was people would like, since he was like a beloved like war hero, people would like tell stories about him and like about how all the cool things that he did and like what a great guy he was. And so that would like Bunyan. Over the years, it would I
think his name was Paul Bunyan. yeah, that sounds right. Paul Bunyan.
I don't know. The other theory is which is more widely accepted or it's more widely like touted as probably where it comes from, and which I think is most likely, is that Bunyan, his name comes from a Quebecois phrase expressing shock or belief, Bonyen. Bonyenne, which is Bonyan.
Like Bunyan.
Yeah. So I think that
Abraham's Bonyan.
I think that it's possible that like in like, you know, this area where there are like French and Irish people and French and like Irish and British people like all mixing together, they like think that, I don't know, and they're telling stories, they come up with, you know, oh, there's this English surname Bunyan that kind of sounds like Bonyan, and it kind of and they put them together and use it as a person to tell stories about.
Honest Paul.
Honest.
That's another name.
That's a good other name.
Abraham Bonyan. I think that's what it should be. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Bonyan, the president's been shot.
Ah! What does Bonyan mean?
It basically means by God, but like by God was or good God, I mean. Good God, but that was kind of thought of as like a, you know, like a low level swear term, you know. Like, so you'd say Bonyan instead of, you know, like the way we'd say like, oh my gosh, or holy crow.
Like we say, holy crow.
Well, people do.
Who?
I don't know, old guys.
All right. Holy crow. I'll start saying it.
Okay. So I'm going to move into a segment I like to call everything you need to know about Paul Bunyan if you want to tell a tall tale or lie about him.
Cool.
Okay?
I love lying and telling tall tales.
So, number one, he's huge. How huge, you ask?
Yeah, how huge?
So, if you want an exact measurement, I only found one story where someone says exactly how tall he is.
Yeah, I want to know.
And they say he's 12 feet 11 inches. Which,
I pictured him being bigger.
Well, here's the thing. His size varies muchly from story to story.
Muchly.
As you would expect. So he may very well at one point have been 12'11". But when he was born, it apparently took 5 storks to get him to his parents' cabin, and they were too tired to even make it all the way there, and he had to like run the last half mile or so.
What? He had to run the rest of the way.
Yeah.
A baby giant. A big baby. A baby. Just picture like he was probably what, the size of like a 10-year-old?
Well,
as a baby?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how much weight can 5 storks carry?
5 babies
worth. Okay.
So 50 pounds.
Okay.
Ish.
50 pounds, yeah.
Maybe a little less, like 45 to 50 pounds.
Sure, something like that, maybe.
So how So, geez, so younger than 10.
But yeah, I mean, he was also able to walk and talk and get into his mother's pantry as soon as he got to the house. But anyway, or that's when he was a baby. And as a baby, his baby carriage that his nurses used for him was a big logging wagon.
Oh my god.
Thing that carries, huge
Oh
trees.
my god, how mad would you be if storks brought you like a baby the size of like a 7-year-old?
Get away, birds!
You'd be like, oh god, what is this thing? It's running. It's running. It's so big. He's running already.
But as an adult, he was also known to pull like whole young pine trees out of the ground and use the branches to comb his beard.
How old was he? Like an adult?
As an adult, yeah, I don't know. I mean, speaking of his beard, old enough to have a beard.
Yeah.
There's a story about this one summer at a logging camp at a place called Tadpole Creek. That summer, the cooks at the camp were complaining they always had a shortage of fresh eggs. So Paul Bunyan had, because there's this big, huge guy coming around. We got to feed him. We don't have enough eggs. But he had built for them the biggest chicken coop in the world.
He's so nice.
And he stocked it with 8,000 chickens.
Oh, wait, where does he get 8,000 chickens? Just because he's giant doesn't mean he can magically find 8,000 chickens.
Yeah, I don't know, Carly.
Okay,
he just does.
I just want to know.
Well,
logistically, like I can see how he builds a huge chicken coop or chicken farm or something, but like, how does he get all the freaking chickens?
Maybe there's a big chicken farmer somewhere else in the country who has a bunch of chickens who he knows. I don't know.
Paul Bunyan seems really nice.
Yeah, he does. That's another thing. That's a through line of like all the stories about him is that he's like a uniformly benevolent character.
Except he's
a really nice
picks
guy.
out pine trees to comb his beard.
Yeah, well, at the time, people were less concerned about their their trees and the environment.
Okay.
But he's a nice guy.
He was very environmentally friendly though, because wasn't he the guy that chopped down trees instead of using the machine?
Maybe that might be a thing. Or are you thinking of John Henry?
No, he did the railroads.
Okay, yeah, okay, no.
Paul Bunyan was the one who would chop down trees with an axe, and then the guy came in and said, "Look at my new machine that chops down trees," and then like. They're like, all right, let's have a contest. It's basically like John Henry, but it's not. He chopped down. So then they had a contest, and like the machine only cut down like one more tree than
Paul Bunyan. Oh.
And then they were like, all right, machine.
Mm-hmm.
But he still did a lot better. Like he was still doing really good.
Okay.
You don't know that?
No, I've never heard that.
That's like main story.
Really?
Yes.
I've never. Okay, I had never heard like many like specific like stories about Paul Bunyan until I was doing research for this.
That's like the main story I ever heard in school.
Really? I feel like all I ever heard were like he made the 10,000 lakes in Minnesota with his ox's footprints or whatever.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, he so he was very environmental because he was like, no, why do we need a machine?
Well, yeah, he like cares about animals and like nature. He's a nice guy, and he likes.
We need another Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, but anyway, so he built this huge chicken coop for the guy. Had 8,000 chickens in it.
Unrealistic.
They had a guy at the camp by the name of Johnny Johnny Inkslinger, who was he's a master bookkeeper who comes up from time to time in Paul Bunyan stories.
Is he real?
No. In one of them,
I think Paul Bunyan is real, so continue.
He can be if you want. He lives on in the hearts of. I want him to be,
so he is.
Yeah. Anyway, Johnny Inkslinger is credited
That's
with.
That's where Bigfoot comes from.
Paul Bunyan?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where Bigfoot's come from.
Okay. That
maybe Mothman.
Okay.
He evolved.
Could be. He evolved.
Yeah.
Like a Pokemon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where Big Feet come from. Bigfoots.
Sure. If that's what you want to believe, then that's what you
or
can
Yetis.
Believe. Okay. Anyway, Johnny Inkslinger is credited with coming up with the concept of writing down numbers. Anyway,
writing down numbers, Inkslinger.
Yeah, Johnny Inkslinger. He's a friend of Paul Bunyan's. He's a
Alright.
good bookkeeper. Yeah, he invented.
Is he a giant?
No, he's just a normal sized guy. He might have like a
Okay.
magic pen or something. I don't know.
Cool.
But they had him count the chickens each morning. And one morning there were 3 or 4 chickens missing.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So Paul, he was running the camp. So he had a guard put outside the chicken coop, to see that no more went missing.
No,
The
what
next night,
happened?
the guard's on watch. Most of the night's gone by. No one's come or gone. He's getting bored, a little drowsy. He's about to nod off when he
No.
hears a commotion coming from inside the coop. He opens the door and comes in just in time to see a red fox climbing out the window with a couple of chickens in its
No.
mouth.
Foxes don't eat chickens, do
Yeah,
they?
they do.
All right, continue.
You've never heard like the phrase "a fox in a hen house"
No.
or something? Okay, yeah,
No, because
So-
I'm not an old person.
yeah. Foxes like to eat chickens. They're known for getting into. Anyway, so the guard chases it all around the camp, and he loses track of it. In his chase, he woke up all the other men who also joined in the search for the fox.
Like the fox took like one chicken.
Well,
Calm
it
down.
starts with one, and
Right, yeah.
after 4,000 days, you don't have any chickens left. So they spread out from the camp, going all through the woods, trying to like find any trace of the fox, and they can't find anything. So they
Okay.
all come back, and one of the loggers has an idea that the next night they should, spread a ring of flour all around the camp, so that when the fox comes in and it leaves, it'll leave footprints, and they can like see which way it's going, so they can like
gosh.
track it to its den
You're really
and trap it.
into this. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
So they can kill the foxes? Just make a better...
Or
Oh.
trap it or something. I don't
Alright,
know. And
okay,
take it
okay.
somewhere else. I don't know what they're gonna do with it once they get it. So they do this, and the next night, the fox comes back. In the morning there are chickens missing, but the odd thing is there's no disturbance of the flour anywhere, or there's nothing.
But
There's no
a chicken
sign.
gone?
But yeah, there. Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Okay.
So this must mean the fox is still in the camp somewhere.
Oh no.
So they're looking so they turn the place upside down, looking everywhere for the fox, but it's nowhere to be found. Paul even has a pet dog at this point, named Elmer,
Aw.
a big moose hound, who's known as the best tracker anywhere in the world. He can track a fox.
I have never heard of Paul Bunyan having a dog. This is so weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
he
Yeah, was he a big dog?
um,
Like the ox?
I think so,
'Cause
but
wasn't the
I
ox
don't know
blue
for
and
sure.
Big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anyway,
interesting.
so they, Elmer's, he's the best tracker in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they try to get him to help out. They like bring him over to the window where the fox was, try to get him to pick up the scent, and then he just walks back over to Paul and sits at his side, looking up at him.
Oh, so we couldn't find him? He failed.
Well,
Poor Elmer.
the
Aw.
men in the camp are all out of ideas. But no one's going to admit that, so they just spend the whole day like arguing about what they're going to do.
Right.
And Paul gets bored listening to these dumb little people arguing about this, and he lays down on the ground and falls asleep, and his dog comes and curls up under his chin.
Oh, Elmer.
And one of the guys sees this and is like, "Eureka! That's it!" And he grabs some rakes and poles and gives them to a couple of the other guys. They get out a ladder and put it up against Paul's chest as he's still sleeping. They climb up and like are knee deep in his beard, like poking around and beating.
It's in his beard.
And soon enough, come out a bevy of quail, some chipmunks, a family of rabbits comes out, a badger, a couple of raccoons, and finally, coming from deep in its home under Paul Bunyan's mighty chin, there's this little red fox that comes out.
Oh, there's so many animals in his beard. How does he not?
Well, it's a big beard. He's a big guy.
I can't do it. That's so funny. Oh gosh. Oh my god, I've never heard that story. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Let's see. What else? Oh, and the second and final thing, which you need to know about Paul Bunyan is that he's a logger. That's a lumberjack. And
Yeah, he doesn't beat the machine, but
right, but he almost beats the machine.
No, it's like they measure how much wood they chopped, and it was by like a quarter of a centimeter or something. It was like crazy small. Like the machine beat him. Oh, something like that.
Machine. Yeah, but it's like logging. He loves trees and cutting them down. That's like the only thing that he ever wants to do in his whole life.
That's why he's like, don't replace me with machine.
Yeah,
he's like, I can do it.
No, it's like as when he was a little baby, just like less than a year old, his father, I guess, was a logger as well. He took his dad's crosscut saw one night and cut the legs off his parents' bed as they slept. And his father woke up in the morning and realized, wait, this bed's lower than it was before. And he saw this little son
1-year-old baby, height of me. Yeah. 1-year-old baby with a chainsaw in a diaper, like naked but in a diaper, and has a chainsaw. That's it. That's all you got. That's all you got to look at.
Yeah.
That's all you got to see in your mind to be terrified. How did they not wake up to a chainsaw?
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a chainsaw. It was like an old.
Chainsaw.
No,
Sorry.
I said crosscut saw.
Which are
those big saws that are like, I don't know.
Oh my God! Still, you hear.
Well, he was really good at it, I guess. I don't know.
So.
He was a natural.
Baby chopper.
Yeah. So those are the only two things you need to know about Paul Bunyan to tell a story about him. There's some other stuff.
And that he didn't beat the machine.
Right.
I can't believe you don't have that in there. That's like the main story.
Maybe
it's not. Maybe it's the main story I learned.
I don't know. I mean,
there's a bunch of stories, obviously.
It might be somewhere in that book. I didn't have a chance to read all the stories in it.
Did you look on Wikipedia?
It wasn't mentioned on Wikipedia.
Oh my God! What?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
keep going.
So yeah, you mentioned his dog. He's had various different pets and different stories. Most famously, and in most of the time when he has a pet, it's Babe the Big Blue Ox.
Yeah, Babe.
Yeah. So by some account, although sometimes
Abe and Babe.
Abe and Babe.
Babe and Abe.
Yeah. Babraham Lincoln.
Babraham Lincoln. I like Abe and Babe.
Abe and Babe? I like that too.
Abe and Babe.
Abe and Babe. All right.
That's
funny. I like it. Abe, yeah.
Do you like that?
No, I do like it. Like a
Abe and Babe.
Sounds like a general store. Abe and Babe's general store.
Abe and Babe's general store. Abe and Babe.
Yeah. Although sometime in at least one story he has a big pink ox named Binny. But most of the time it's a big blue ox
called
Babe.
Babe the Big Blue Ox.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I heard he made the lakes.
Yeah,
with his footsteps.
So by some accounts, he found Babe as a calf during the winter of the blue snow, when he rescued Babe from drowning in Thunder Bay in Canada.
Wow, what a good guy.
Yeah. Although in other stories, Babe is already fully grown and he already has him during the winter of the blue snow, which is which is an event that is told of in different Paul Bunyan stories. When it snowed blue snow, but during some stories he takes Babe to pull a sleigh across the frozen Pacific Ocean to China to bring back regular white snow. Which is important for some reason.
Yeah, why is that? Why is Babe blue?
Well, if it may have something to do with the blue snow, if that's when he found him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not entirely sure.
That'd be so cool if there's blue snow. Why do they want white snow?
I don't know. Maybe
it'd be so cool if it was blue snow.
Well, in one story about the blue snow is, so in the one that I read about when he found the ox, who was the same color as the snow. But anyway, in that story, he also had a dog named Niagara.
Niagara.
Who Paul Bunyan was living in a cave at the time, reading books and studying. It was an interesting story, but he was living in a cave off Thunder Bay.
Tiny books.
I guess
They're
so.
so little.
No, and he'd
If
write
he's that big.
with
Tiny pencil.
yeah, or well, in this
Well, you
story,
could
he'd like have like a big
pencil.
he'd like have a huge tree, and he'd like
Right.
burn the end of it
Oh,
so that it'd be
yeah.
charcoal, so he could like write on the cave floor.
Okay.
But he had a dog who was out in the who would go out and like I guess also was huge because he would like kill moose and bring them back to Paul so they could eat and stuff. So the dog would go out hunting for him while he was like studying in his cave, when Paul Bunyan was a young man. But when the blue snow came, it really freaked out all the animals as well, and so they started running north, and his dog also like ran after them, chasing them far to the north and scaring them even more.
Oh.
So
Sad.
so like all the like moose and stuff went up there. They eventually came back, but he also chased like all the bears in the area way up north, and so they got up to the Arctic, and then they
Became polar
they
bears.
stayed there, and they were so scared of the snow and the dog that their fur turned all white. And so yeah, that's where polar bears came from.
No, I love that. Okay, I really thought the only story of Paul Bunyan was the one where he just chopped down all the trees and didn't beat the machine. So now I'm just fascinated.
Yeah, and
So weird.
No, there are a ton of stories about him like
Well, that's how polar bears are made. That's so funny. Oh my god.
There's a ton of stories about him like inventing things or causing different like natural phenomena, or causing like different like geographical features. Like he apparently dug the St. Lawrence River when he was like a kid, or because which separates the U.S. from Canada. He asked his father. He saw somebody else was digging it at the time. Another like character who shows up in a few other Paul Bunyan stories, and he asked his father, "What's he doing?" And his dad was like, "He's digging the St. Lawrence River, because you see, that's Canada on that side, and this is America here, but like with nothing in between, people get so confused. They don't know
They
don't know which
confused.
country they're in."
Yeah.
And so
Fair
that guy's digging the St. Lawrence River, and then Paul went off and like
Helped him.
basically.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, what a good kid. What a good guy. Man.
He made he made Crater Lake in the Olympia Mountains. He made the Black Hills in South Dakota. He made Puget Sound in Washington and Mount Baker. He carved the Grand Canyon.
Carved the Grand Canyon.
and
I like that.
I know, and he made the Thumb of Michigan.
Oh my god.
He also caused the fog that sits off the coast of Maine sometimes, because when he was a young boy, he was studying in school. He was trying to learn to write, but he was so huge that he couldn't like. He had to like write really big as well. Like his parents had to get like a special pencil made, like they ordered it from Germany, and so that he could like write with it. But he was like trying really hard to like get his measure his letters, like get the curly cues on them just right, to get his penmanship just perfect. But his teacher was just a regular sized guy, and so whenever he looked at what he was drawing, he just saw like a big fat long straight line, and so he'd like get really frustrated with Paul Bunyan that he couldn't like draw right. And so Paul like yelled at him, and the teacher like yelled at him, and like Paul like got mad and like started just running off like really far, really long.
Started running.
He just like started running away. I don't remember exactly why. I didn't write down a summary of this story. Something to do with his teacher getting mad at him, so he started running away.
Poor
and he was like
Paul.
huffing and puffing so hard, and his breath like came out in big, like in the cold winter air, his breath like came out in like big clouds of like
foggy.
crystals, and it like still sticks around now.
Aw,
and today.
it's cute.
And one more geographical feature he caused is or natural phenomena is the tides of the Bay of Fundy, which is a big bay off the coast of Maine and Nova Scotia, where that is known for its like super extreme like tidal range, where like at low tide there's like basically no water. It's just like mud for a good ways, and then at high tide the water up at the coast is like 10 feet deep or something. And so apparently when Paul Bunyan was a child, his parents had to make for him a giant a huge cradle that was so big they couldn't like have it in town, so they had to float it off the coast of Maine, or off the coast of I don't know, Nova Scotia or wherever, or New Brunswick. And so, but when he was little, he like when he was sleeping in his cradle, he would like rock back and forth a ton, and so he would like cause huge like waves and like tidal waves and stuff. And so like even after he like woke up and got out of his cradle, finally, the tide still keeps going way out and way back in the Bay of Fundy. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
it's more fun to believe that Paul Bunyan was real than Jesus creating all of this stuff with the flood. Like the Grand Canyon and stuff.
Yeah.
One time in junior high, I was on a missions trip in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's really lame. And the girl I was walking around with, we went to the Nebraska Bluffs for fun after we helped paint some guy's house. I don't know. And so we like went to the Nebraska Bluffs, and she just like looked at it, and we were taking pictures, and she's like, it's crazy that people can look at this and not believe in the Great Flood. Like, obviously this created this, like God created this with the flood.
Okay.
And I'm like, what?
Like, I can see like saying, I can't believe you can look at this and not believe in like the power of God to create wonderful, splendorous things. But to say it's like specifically the flood just doesn't add up to me. Like, just from what I know about how
all the water flooded
works.
The world.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, why isn't it like that everywhere?
I don't know. But that's what she said. And it sticks with me for some reason, because I'm like, okay.
If that's what helps her make sense of the world, then it's fine, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there are Paul Bunyan like statues everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
Everywhere where the logging industry exists, basically. Everywhere, like across the northern United States. Like there's a huge. Sorry. Let's see. There's, for instance, in Bemidji, Minnesota, I think one of the most famous like Paul Bunyan statues is
Oh
yeah, you've seen it before. Yeah. It's like what's the size of it? He's only 18 feet tall. There are other statues of him that are like 31 feet tall.
Yeah.
But according to Kodak, it's the second most photographed statues in the United States. A giant statue of Paul Bunyan and Babe the Big Blue Ox.
Babe.
Second only to Mount Rushmore. Anyway.
That's funny.
But,
I'm shocked he didn't like... Oh, wait, no. Mount Rushmore wasn't that long ago.
No.
It was like he carved Mount Rushmore.
No. Yeah.
Well,
and
you're right.
yeah, we know who made Mount Rushmore. Yeah, so but like statues of Paul Bunyan like started popping up everywhere across the United States, like around when like the car became a big thing. Because as you're driving down the people, they wanted to get your attention, to stop at their like rest stop or gas station or whatever.
Yeah,
so
there are a lot of huge Paul Bunyan statues.
Yeah, they're like all over the place.
That's weird.
Wherever there are trees, there's
like one in Illinois.
Yeah,
I've
somewhere.
definitely passed it.
Well, or is that a giant Abe Lincoln, or is there both?
I've seen a big Paul Bunyan. Maybe it's in Missouri.
Oh,
No,
maybe.
I think it's in Illinois.
But yeah. So those are all over the U.S. because like in the 20s through 40s, basically, when like road trips became a thing. You know,
That's funny.
Yeah. And I just want to talk about one particular statue. I'll just quote from Wikipedia here about something in a statue in Cheshire, Connecticut. When the 26-foot muffler man, Paul Bunyan, was erected in front of a local lumber business in the 1980s, the town objected to the statue, citing that it was a violation of town codes given its substantial height. Finding no limitation on flagpole height in the books, the owners of the statue replaced Bunyan's axe with an American flag.
Because he's a flag post.
Yeah, they made a loophole.
That's so funny. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I want to go see that.
Yeah, so
is it still a flagpole?
I think so. I don't know for sure. Yeah, I don't know if it still exists. It doesn't say on Wikipedia.
That's funny. I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I have about Paul Bunyan.
That was interesting.
We've gone for a while.
Yeah, I know. No, that was interesting. That's why I've only ever heard the one story, so I was like, Harry, that's boring. But I didn't realize other people learn different stories and that there's 1,000,000,008 different stories about Paul Bunyan. We should go visit all the Paul Bunyan statues.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. It was like a thing like in,
we should plan it.
In the logging when, back in the late 1800s.
It's because the main story, which is weird that they don't have it on Wikipedia. I don't know. I guess that's just the one I learned. Whatever. Yeah.
But, back before they had podcasts to listen to, people had to tell stories to each other, and they'd like make up, you had a stock character and you knew his basic characteristics, and so you could just make up stories about him to entertain each other. And so people made up all kinds of stories about what was going on.
I like them.
Yeah, there's a ton more. I got a lot of this information from a book called Legends of Paul Bunyan, edited by Harold W. Felton.
It was really funny because Harry was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do Paul Bunyan," and I was like, "Oh." And he's like, "But I need to find more info on it." So we waited like a week to do it. Like he waited another week, and then we went to a bookstore, like a used bookstore, and we were looking at books, and he's like, "Look at this book I found," and it was Legends of Paul Bunyan, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's perfect."
Yeah.
There's actually a book on this. That means there's actually cool stuff about Paul Bunyan.
Yeah. There are a few more books cited on Wikipedia, so other people also like to
talk about Paul Bunyan.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now I'm fascinated. I want to read this.
Okay, yeah, this
is really cool.
No, it's a fun. It was like written in it was originally published in like the 40s, I think. But it's full of good stuff.
No, it's really interesting. They're like short little stories. They're not like super long.
Yeah, they range from like a few paragraphs to like, I don't know, 5 pages at most, I would say.
Yeah, we should go visit all the Paul Bunyan statues and like take pictures of them.
Okay.
And then post them.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I guess I don't know where they're all at, but are there a lot of them? I'm assuming there's a lot of them.
Yeah, they're pretty common.
Well, the main ones. We should go visit the main ones that are on Wikipedia.
Yeah, we'll visit all the ones that are on the Wikipedia page for statues of Paul Bunyan.
I want to go to Portland, Oregon.
Me too.
That's cool. We should go to Portland, Oregon. There's one in Maine. Oh, okay. I don't have the money to go to all these places.
Well,
I was hoping they'd all be in like Illinois, Missouri. That's it. No. Well, we should. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
we should at least go visit one.
Okay.
We'll go visit one. So.
All right. Okay. So that is stuff I know about Paul Bunyan.
So that was Abe and Babe.
Abe and Babe. That's the title of the episode.
So is there anything else we need to say?
I don't think so. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you had a good time. I certainly did.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay. So I've been Harry.
And I'm still Carly.
And this has been Known Unknowns.
Known Unknowns podcast.
Stay tuned for Last Call with Carson Daly.
Because it's weird out there.
Bye.
Bye.